it's time for me to take the wiggies I have and this extra hair to make accessories. So what I have here is a bit of Stu's tail. When I trimmed her tail the other day, I need yellow because I need a smile for Pail, because Pail's smile is yellow. So I just kept the hair off that I cut off of her tail. Now I need to get it together and flat iron it so that I can then cut a smile that will fit in that area. I've got my got to be glued. I'm just gonna need some hairspray. I have a big piece of paper here. So the first thing I need to do is get this thing, start getting it flat. And your hands are gonna stick to it, but having the paper kind of helps. So I'm gonna look this up, and I can see I have a little bit of a bald spot here. So I'm gonna take this piece and I'm going to hairspray it together, which will eliminate that hole. Then I've got this big piece of kind of felt but made out of dog hair to work with. So I've got my flat iron, and I'm just gonna tap it because I need to start flattening it out. It's super easy, you guys. It doesn't have to be a wiggy. This is literally trimmings from her tail. Granted, it was like 4 inches long, but now you can see there's no hole in it. But I want this thing super stiff. I will airbrush over it with some yellow. Turn this puppet down a little bit to 260. This thing goes up to 420. Yeah, I know, 420. Ho ho. So I'm just making it as thin as possible. I have the smile already carved out in Pail, but I need to make sure that I cut this to the right size. It's nice and flat, and I can just use a little bit of Eileen's tacky glue. This is non-toxic. It is water soluble, it dries clear, and it is perfectly safe to use on a pup. Once I get my smile carved out, I will just glue it in the area of Pail that still has that nice red color, but I need it to grow out white and be about the length of a 4F C blade before I can color it yellow, because right now it's that was one of the areas from her abstract design that didn't have much coat in that area. So I took it short to get the smile carved in, and I knew I was going to be using a wiggy for that, but at least it's made out of dog hair. So this also goes a long way in competition because it's a credit to your skills. So I've got this puppy just about as thin and flat as I can get it. When I do cut it, it's a little teeny weensy bit puffy in the middle. You can feel it because it's thicker. When I cut it, I'll have to respray and do the edges. I'll show you that after, but right now I'm doing prep work. All right, so this is for Pail's mouth. I'm gonna start carving my smile. The big deal is to start by only taking a little off at a time. These are crappy shears, and I'm using them because I don't want to dull the blades of my really good shears. So I'm just going to start by cutting as little as possible around the edges, because you don't want to cut in too much and ruin your shape. So Smile has a pretty deep dip. I'm going in. These shears are terrible, but Hairspray will dull very good shears. So there we go. I might be able to use a little bit of this for that as well. So I'll trim off the dead ends. And I'm gonna take a little scrap piece. I'm gonna need a little bit of a crooked smile. Okay, time to trim up a little more. There needs to be a pointier smile and a bigger dip here. So, just gonna go for it. Trust your instinct, take your time. I'm gonna cut off that dead end, the stuff I don't need. All those little pieces you wanna keep. You never really wanna throw them away. So I'm just gauging where I'm at. I can see it in my head. What I need, it needs a little bit more work, but the final tweaks will be done when I can get it up against the area on Spoo where it needs to go and make sure it's just the right shape. And fix this dip a little bit. See how it splits apart there? That's where I have to press those edges back together. So far, so good. Again, final tweaks always happen when you are placing them on the dog. I hope you can see it as I can. All right. So now where I've cut, you can see that my edges are no longer flat. And on the smile portion, it's the same thing. The hair has started to separate because my edges were cut. So now I need to use my flat iron, and then again, that's the safe hairspray most creative groomers use, the got to be glued freeze spray. I need to recrimp my edges with my flat iron. You got to be careful. It could pull apart in layers if you're not careful. So make sure you're squeezing pretty tight. And a tip is to go against the grain, the way the hair lays on the piece, or it will pull apart. I'll spray inside that little area. And again, use my flat iron, squeeze really tight. So I really need it to seal. See how it started to pull apart a little bit there when I opened that up? Once I put it back together and the hairspray dried, then I got nice flat edges. I got my edges back. So now I'm just gonna make sure that this is perfect. It's sticking to my fingers. You also have to be careful of that because it made a little crease in it, but that piece is done. And I could take another one of these little extra pieces to fill in that hole or that thin area right here on the end. I could just use some of the glue and glue it together, and then I won't have that see-through part. But again, it's going to be trimmed, so. All right, I think I'm going to use some hairspray. See if I can use that little piece, lay it on top, and cover up that bare spot, just like I did in the mouth in the very beginning of this clip. But this is going to be tricky with the flat iron. You have to be very careful. You don't want to burn yourself, you don't want to burn the hair, and you don't want it to pull apart, and it's going to take a second to get it sealed properly. You just don't want to pull. I'm tapping want to be a little firmer on the edges of the bigger pieces, but here, not so much. Don't be scared. There it goes. Now it's starting to stick together. So I have some more hairspray here. I want to make sure this is sealed, my edges. And then I'm going to crimp that and make those edges nice and crisp. So I just don't want it falling apart while I'm waiting to put it on spoo. These things are going to be stored in an envelope for safekeeping so they don't get bent and twisted. I'm pinching really hard here on the edges, and my iron is up to, I think, 420 again. So yep, I just want to make sure it's nice and firm and flat. These things do take time, but like I said, these little details, taking the time to do this, making it true to your design, are points that you will get for skill. All right, storage inside of the envelope. Now I need to, again, spray inside that opening where it's separated. Use my flat iron. I'm going to crimp that really, really tight. And I'll be able to store that in the envelope as well. Just using the very end of my flat iron, really, really pinching hard that edge and then pulling it out. It kind of pulls the hair as well. Don't forget that this still hair, it's still going to move a little bit, especially when you're reheating up that hairspray and it's not fully dry. But I do need this to be as thin as it needs to be so it's not see-through, but then also not too thick. It's a hard balance. You saw how that was open, and you'll see me pinching those edges closed. This is really important. I know it's repetitive, but you do what you got to do. Getting there. I do not want this splitting open while it's being stored. I cannot stress that enough, because this may only last me one show, or it may last me 2 shows. But hopefully, like I said, this is only temporary until that area in my design grows out enough that I'll be able to trim some red off, and then I'll be able to actually color the smile in. There we go. All done. After having a look, I made some more tweaks, and then I put it on spoo while she was laying there, and it fits. Woo! Thanks for watching. I'm available for lessons in person or online. DM me on Instagram. And remember to subscribe.